Welcome to Cybersecurity HQ's Daily News Report. It's December 3rd, 2024. And man, do we have a lot to cover today. So much news coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to jump right in. We could start off with that FBI and CISA warning.
Oh, right. The one to U.S. telecom companies.
Yeah, exactly. About that Chinese hacking campaign. Salt Typhoon, they're calling it.
Salt Typhoon? What do we know about it?
Well, they're saying it's targeting sensitive data, like, the metadata, text messages, stuff like that.
Held by these telecom companies.
Right. And get this, even call content. And they're going after high-value targets.
What, like government officials?
Exactly. It's a pretty serious reminder that cyber espionage, it's a real threat.
For sure. It's not going away. What are they recommending that these companies do?
Well, they're really pushing for them to up their security, like a multi-layered approach. Advanced encryption protocols, of course.
Oh, to protect the data.
Right. And also centralized monitoring. Got to have that to detect anything suspicious.
Yeah. Real-time monitoring is key.
And proactive threat hunting, too. That's super important to stop threats.
Before they can do any real damage.
Exactly.
So kind of a wake-up call for the whole telecom industry.
I think so, yeah. And speaking of big initiatives, you see what the EU's doing.
Oh, with the Cybersecurity Shield?
Yes. Aiming to strengthen their defenses across all the member states.
What's all included in that?
Okay, so there's three main components to this shield. First, you've got the Cybersecurity Alert System, right? That'll allow them to share information quickly.
Okay, so like about new threats as they pop up.
Exactly. Then there's the Cybersecurity Emergency Mechanism, so that'll help with a coordinated response.
In case of a major incident.
Exactly. And finally, they're establishing a network of cyber hubs.
Cyber hubs, huh?
Yeah, and they'll be leveraging AI for collaboration and innovation in cybersecurity.
This feels kind of similar to the NIS2 directive, the one from October.
Yeah, you're right. It does build on that foundation, trying to enhance their whole cybersecurity, I guess.
It'll be interesting to see how that develops. Now, switching gears a bit, how about AWS re-RD-invent?
Oh, yeah, reinvent. Cloud security is a hot topic right now, isn't it?
Big time. Any big launches that caught your eye?
Definitely. AWS came out with their incident response service.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Designed to help companies respond to security incidents more effectively, right?
That's it. Faster reaction times and access to AWS experts for help with containment and remediation.
I think that'll be a game changer for a lot of companies. What else?
Well, Amazon Guard Duty got a pretty big upgrade.
I was reading about that. AI and ML enhancements, right?
Yeah, to boost their threat detection across the whole range of AWS services.
It seems like they're really focusing on proactive security.
Definitely. And then there's Wiz Defend, which is making some serious waves.
Oh, yeah. Wiz Defend. That one focuses on AI-powered threat detection and response in the cloud.
Yep. Real-time response, too. It seems like cloud security is getting a lot more sophisticated.
It really is. And back on the geopolitical front, the U.S.-China tech tensions continue to escalate.
It's really heating up, isn't it? The U.S. Department of Commerce just added a bunch of Chinese firms to their export control list.
140, if I remember correctly.
Wow, you've been keeping up with it. Yeah, 140 firms is going to make it a lot harder for them to get American technology.
And I think most of them are involved in semiconductor manufacturing and AI research, which is interesting.
Oh, absolutely. This is a big deal. It could slow down China's progress in key areas, like AI. It also might impact global supply chains, as companies might need to rethink their reliance on Chinese manufacturers.
Right. And speaking of fallout from past events, remember that movie @Hack?
Oh, man. That was a big one. Still making headlines, too.
Yeah, over 760,000 employee records have been leaked because of that.
It's a stark reminder of the importance of supply chain security. A weak link can bring down the whole chain.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to the world of cryptocurrency. Hacks are still a problem, even though they're down slightly from last year.
Yeah, hackers still managed to steal an estimated $1.49 billion this year. And November was particularly bad.
Why was that?
There was a huge spike in losses, primarily from attacks targeting DeFi platforms.
DeFi platform.
It stands for decentralized finance. It's a new type of financial service built on blockchain technology.
So like a financial system without traditional intermediaries like banks.
Exactly. It's growing super fast, but security is often lagging behind, unfortunately. New vulnerabilities pop up all the time.
It's like a gold rush, but without the security measures in place.
That's a good way to put it.
Now let's talk about the energy sector. And Global Corporation, a contractor in the energy space, was hit by a ransomware attack.
This really highlights the threat to critical infrastructure, you know? Energy companies are prime targets for ransomware because disruptions can have such a widespread impact.
For sure. It's a reminder that no industry is immune to these threats.
Yeah.
And then there's this Cisco vulnerability.
Yeah, the one that's been around for a decade.
10 years. It's amazing that it's still being exploited today.
I know, right? Cisco's warning everybody about it. It's CVE 2014-2120.
And it allows for cross-site scripting attacks on web VPN users.
It's even been linked to some botnet activity.
This just goes to show that patching those old vulnerabilities is super important. Attackers are always looking for ways to exploit known weaknesses.
Definitely. You can't just focus on the latest vulnerabilities. You need a comprehensive vulnerability management program to address them all, no matter how old they are.
And speaking of VPNs, researchers have found some critical vulnerabilities in VPN clients from Palo Alto Networks and SonicWall.
Yeah, they're calling it Nacho VPN. It could allow attackers to run code remotely on Windows and macOS systems.
How is that even possible with VPNs? They're supposed to be secure.
Well, the problem is with certificate validation and input sanitization. Attackers can slip through the cracks and gain access.
It's kind of scary to think that even trusted security solutions can have these kinds of flaws.
It's a good reminder that no system is perfect. We have to be constantly vigilant.
For sure. Now let's move on to nation-state activity. The North Korean hacking group, Kimsuki, is at it again.
Oh yeah, those guys. They're known for stealing credentials, and now they're using Russian email domains for phishing attacks.
That's interesting. Why Russian domains?
It's a clever tactic to avoid detection. By using domains that are not typically associated with North Korea, they can slip past security filters and trick people into giving up their credentials. It's like a disguise.
So they're adapting to the evolving threat landscape.
Cool.
Clever, but dangerous.
Definitely. And speaking of dangerous, there's a new malware campaign making the rounds called Horns and Hooves.
Horns and Hooves. That's an unusual name.
It is, isn't it? It's targeting a lot of people in Russia, from regular users to businesses. They're mainly focused on delivering Trojans and RATs.
RATs as in remote access Trojans.
Exactly. They can take control of infected systems. And what's interesting is how they're doing it. They're using all sorts of methods like phishing emails, malicious ads, even compromised cloud storage.
So they're not limiting themselves to just one attack vector. They're covering all their bases.
Yep. It's a sign that attackers are getting more sophisticated. Now let's talk about predictions. Vectra AI just released their outlook for 2025.
What are they saying?
Well, one of their predictions is AI fatigue. They think companies are going to get tired of all the hype around AI and start demanding solutions that actually deliver.
AI fatigue, huh? So it's not enough to just slap an AI-powered label on something anymore.
Exactly. Companies want to see real value, real improvements in security.
Makes sense. What else are they predicting?
They're also predicting a rise in AI-driven attacks, like more sophisticated phishing scams, and they're worried about AI tools themselves being exploited.
That's a scary thought. AI being used against us.
Right. They're also talking about regulatory challenges and how compliance demands could actually create new vulnerabilities. And of course, they see identity as a major attack vector in the future.
Identity is the new perimeter, as they say.
Exactly. Attackers will go after credentials and identity systems to get access to sensitive data. Strong identity security is going to be more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more. Now, there was a cybersecurity conference in Idaho recently that focused on nation-state actors and the challenges of AI.
It's a timely topic, for sure. Cybersecurity is a global issue.
Absolutely. It seems like the conference highlighted the need for a multifaceted approach to defense.
Definitely. They talked about technical solutions like virtual firewalls and canaries for early detection, but they also emphasized that human error is still a major weak point.
So technology is important, but we can't forget about the human factor.
Exactly. And they also talked about the challenges faced by smaller communities. They often don't have the resources for robust cybersecurity.
It's good that SEXA has those grant programs to help with that. Now let's move on to company news. Sentinel is doing quite well.
Yeah, Baird just raised their price target for the stock. They're seeing a lot of growth, especially in cloud and IoT security.
It's good to see companies innovating and finding success in the cybersecurity space. And speaking of innovation, generative AI is taking off in Japan.
It is. Even with some challenges, companies there are finding ways to use it to improve efficiency and drive innovation.
It's fascinating to see how different countries are approaching AI. Now, this next story is pretty impressive. Crypto.com just announced a massive bug bounty.
$2 million. That's a record. It really shows their commitment to security.
It's a win-win situation. It incentivizes ethical hackers to find and report vulnerabilities, making the platform more secure for everyone.
Exactly. And it sets a new standard for bug bounty programs. Other companies are going to have to step up their game.
For sure. It's a good thing for the whole industry. Now let's talk about mergers and acquisitions. Cyber AI Group just acquired a US-based cybersecurity company.
This is a big move. It positions them as a major player in the market.
It seems like there's a lot of consolidation happening in the cybersecurity industry.
It's a competitive market, and companies are looking for ways to expand their reach and capabilities. And Okta, a leader in identity and access management, is having a banner year. Their Q3 earnings were fantastic.
Identity security is more crucial than ever.
Absolutely. And Okta is capitalizing on that trend. Their success really shows the growing demand for strong identity management solutions.
And finally, looking ahead, CES 2025 is just around the corner, and it's expected to be a showcase for the latest and greatest in cybersecurity.
We'll be keeping a close eye on it.
But for now, let's focus on some more specific threats. Researchers have discovered a new Windows backdoor called Smoked Ham.
Smoked Ham, interesting name. Tell me more about it.
Well, it's linked to what's left of the DarkSide ransomware group. They're delivering it through various means, including phishing emails, those pesky malicious ads, and even compromised cloud storage.
So even though DarkSide is gone, their affiliates are still active and coming up with new tricks.
Exactly. And once this Smoked Ham is installed, it allows attackers to hang around in the system, steal data, and potentially deploy even more malware.
It's a good reminder that we can't let our guard down, even against threats we think are gone. Cybercriminals are adaptable and resourceful. They're always finding new ways to come back.
Speaking of evolving threats, Experian just released their 2025 data breach industry forecast.
Oh yeah, what did they have to say?
Well, they're predicting a rise in teen hackers. It seems like the average age of cybercriminals is dropping, and we might see more young people involved in these sophisticated attacks.
It's a worrying trend, isn't it? It's more important than ever to educate young people about cybersecurity and the ethical implications of their actions online.
Absolutely. We need to make sure they understand the consequences of their actions in the digital world.
And it's not just external threats we need to worry about. Experian is also highlighting the risks of insider fraud, particularly as more employees are trained in AI and have access to that kind of knowledge.
That's a good point. We can't forget about the insider threat.
And then there are the data centers themselves. They're becoming prime targets for attacks, especially with our growing reliance on cloud computing and AI.
Power-hungry data centers, easy targets.
That's what they're saying. Attackers might try to steal data, disrupt services, or even hold organizations hostage by threatening to shut down their data centers.
That's pretty scary when you think about how much we rely on these data centers. And then there's the whole issue of hacker-on-hacker crime.
Oh yeah, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, even in the cybercrime underworld. Hackers are increasingly turning on each other for profit, revenge, or just to establish dominance.
So it's not just about traditional cybercriminals anymore. The lines are getting blurred.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the threat landscape is complex and constantly evolving. We need to be prepared for anything.
Couldn't agree more. Now, the EU Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, just released its first State of Cybersecurity report. What's their assessment of the situation?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. They acknowledge progress in some areas, like implementing the NIS2 directive, but they also point out some pretty significant gaps.
Like what?
They're concerned about coordination, awareness programs, and investment in skills and technology.
It sounds like they're urging the EU to step up their game.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is a collective effort, and it requires cooperation and collaboration across borders.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about a new and growing concern: the vulnerability of AI power centers.
AI is becoming more prevalent, and the data centers that power these technologies are becoming increasingly attractive targets for cybercriminals.
It's a combination of valuable data and potential for disruption. These AI power centers are essential for many critical services.
Exactly. And a successful attack could have a ripple effect across multiple sectors.
How can we protect these critical hubs?
We need to be thinking about security from the ground up, ensuring that the infrastructure itself is resilient. This means robust physical security measures, strong cyber defenses, and comprehensive disaster recovery plans.
It's a multifaceted challenge, requiring a multi-layered approach. We need to be prepared for both physical and cyber threats.
Absolutely. And we can't afford to be complacent. The stakes are too high.
Speaking of high stakes, the cybersecurity landscape is getting even more complex with the rise of hacker-on-hacker crime.
It's a trend that's been growing for a while now. Cybercriminals are no longer just targeting businesses and individuals. They're increasingly turning on each other.
So it's a bit of a cyber Wild West out there.
You could say that. The motivations are varied. Financial gain, revenge, or just a desire to establish dominance in the cybercrime underworld.
It adds a whole new layer of complexity to the threat landscape.
It definitely does. And it highlights the fact that the lines between different threat actors are becoming blurred.
It's not just about good guys versus bad guys anymore. It's a much more nuanced and fluid situation.
Exactly. And that makes it even more challenging to defend against these threats.
Now let's talk about the energy transition and the cybersecurity challenges it brings. As we move towards cleaner energy systems, we're also introducing new vulnerabilities and risks.
It's a trade-off that we have to be aware of. These new energy systems rely heavily on digital infrastructure, which makes them more susceptible to cyber attacks.
And the potential consequences of a successful attack are huge. We've already seen examples of nation-state actors targeting critical infrastructure, like the grid.
Exactly. And as these systems become even more interconnected and reliant on technology, the stakes will only get higher.
So what's the solution? How can we secure these critical systems as we transition to a cleaner energy future?
We need to build security into the design of these systems from the ground up. It can't be an afterthought. We also need collaboration between industry stakeholders, governments, and cybersecurity experts to ensure that we're all on the same page and sharing best practices.
It's a collective effort, for sure. Now let's talk about a threat that never seems to go away. Phishing.
It's still one of the most effective attack methods out there, unfortunately, and it's getting even more sophisticated with the help of generative AI.
Ivanti just released a report saying that phishing attacks are the fastest growing cyber threat, fueled by AI's ability to craft highly convincing and personalized messages.
It's making it harder than ever to distinguish a legitimate email from a phishing attempt.
So what can we do about it?
We need to go beyond traditional security awareness training. It's not enough to just tell people to be careful about clicking links.
We need to equip them with the skills to recognize these AI-powered phishing attempts, even the really sophisticated ones.
Absolutely. It's about teaching people how to think critically and spot the subtle cues that might give away a phishing attempt.
Speaking of AI, Palo Alto Networks is embracing generative AI to develop new security solutions.
They're really betting big on AI, and it seems to be paying off. They're focusing on consolidating their platform and getting ready for the next generation of network security. And their use of AI is definitely attracting attention.
It's interesting to see how AI is being used both offensively and defensively in cybersecurity.
It's a powerful tool that can be used for good or bad.
It's up to us to make sure it's used for good. And on the topic of government initiatives, the Department of Defense has updated its Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC, program.
This program is designed to ensure that contractors handling sensitive defense information meet certain cybersecurity standards.
What are the key changes in this update?
Well, they've introduced 3 levels of certification, each with stricter requirements. Level 1 is self-assessment, Level 2 requires third-party validation, and Level 3 is the most stringent, requiring government-led assessments.
So it's a tiered approach, recognizing that different contractors handle different levels of sensitive information.
Exactly. It's about making sure that everyone is meeting the appropriate level of security for the type of information they're handling.
And finally, let's talk about the ongoing debate about AI and its impact on cybersecurity.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? AI has the potential to revolutionize cybersecurity, but it also presents new risks and challenges.
As we integrate AI into critical systems, we need to be very careful. A compromised AI system could have devastating consequences.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive in developing secure AI models and implementing safeguards to prevent them from being exploited.
It's a new frontier in cybersecurity, and we need to make sure we're prepared for the challenges ahead.
We can't just assume that AI will solve all our cybersecurity problems. We need to approach it with caution and make sure we're building security into these systems from the ground up. It really bolsters their work in national security and critical infrastructure. Kairos is great at analyzing secure systems without having the source code.
That reverse engineering, right?
Yeah, it's really useful for proprietary systems or even just figuring out how malware ticks.
So you can dissect the code and find vulnerabilities before the attackers do.
Right. They can see how attackers might try to exploit them. So this acquisition, it shows how important advanced analytics and proactive threat hunting are becoming.
Yeah, shifting from reactive to proactive security. not just waiting for an attack to happen.
Exactly. Got to be more aggressive, scouting, understanding the enemy, anticipating their next move. It's like,
Cyber warfare.
yeah, kind of. But anyway, there's been a big development in the fight against cybercrime.
Oh, tell me more.
The founder of that Hydra darknet marketplace.
That was a huge one.
Well, he just got sentenced to life in prison.
Wow. That's a big win for law enforcement. Hydra was involved in all sorts of illegal activities.
Drugs, stolen credit cards, fake IDs, you name it.
At one point, they had over 17 million customer accounts.
Yeah.
Made billions of dollars.
Taking them down back in 2022 was a big deal for the whole darknet. But this sentence really sends a message.
That cybercrime doesn't pay.
Exactly. Even in the dark web, you can't hide from the law forever.
And speaking of technology and the law, there's that Apple employee who's suing the company.
Over those invasive monitoring practices, right?
Yeah. It raises some tough questions about employee privacy. He claims that Apple is making employees install monitoring software on their personal devices.
Blurring the lines between work and a personal life.
Exactly. The lawsuit even says they link employee iCloud accounts to work systems.
Giving them access to emails, photos, location data, browsing history, everything.
That's a lot of personal information.
It is. And the employee is arguing that it's excessive, that it violates their privacy rights under California law.
This case could have big implications for employee privacy, especially in the tech industry.
It's a tough balance, right? Companies need to protect their data, but employees have a right to privacy.
Definitely a complex issue.
Yeah.
Now, the CFPB is taking aim at data brokers.
Those companies that collect and sell all that personal data, often without people even knowing about it.
It's a big problem for privacy.
Yeah.
And the CFPB is proposing a new rule to crack down on them.
Requiring them to get explicit consent before they sell or share sensitive data.
That's the idea. The CFPB says data brokers pose a real risk to privacy and financial security. They handle so much information, and there's not a lot of oversight.
And the new rule would ban the sale of social security numbers and phone numbers without consent. It would also make them get authorization before sharing financial information.
It's a big step towards giving people more control over their data.
Absolutely. It's about time someone did something about this.
Couldn't agree more. And in a major operation, authorities have taken down Matrix,
Matrix.
that encrypted messaging service that criminals were using.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal. It shows that law enforcement is serious about disrupting these criminal networks, even the ones that use encryption.
Matrix was really popular among criminals. It had strong encryption and all sorts of features to keep their communications secret.
But this takedown shows that even with all that, they're not untouchable.
It's a victory for law enforcement and a setback for cybercriminals.
Definitely. It sends a strong message. We're watching you.
We're coming for you. And remember that Chinese hacking group we talked about earlier, Typhoon?
The one targeting U.S. telecoms.
The FBI and CISA have issued another warning, saying that the group is still active.
It's a serious threat, and it highlights the importance of constant vigilance in cybersecurity.
They're still targeting high-profile individuals, trying to steal sensitive information.
It's a reminder that we need to be proactive, not just reactive, in our approach to security.
We need to be constantly monitoring our systems, updating our defenses, and adapting to the evolving threat landscape.
And we need to be working together, sharing information, and coordinating our efforts.
Cybersecurity is a team sport. Now, the FTC is continuing its crackdown on companies that misuse facial recognition technology.
This time, they've settled with Intellivision Technologies.
They were accused of making false claims about their facial recognition software, weren't they?
Yeah, they were exaggerating its accuracy and downplaying its potential biases.
Misleading consumers about its capabilities. The FTC is really focused on ensuring that this technology is used responsibly.
Absolutely. There's so much potential for misuse with facial recognition.
Surveillance, discrimination, even the suppression of dissent. We need clear guidelines and regulations to protect people's rights.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of privacy, the FTC is also going after location data brokers.
Those companies that track our movements and sell that data.
Exactly. They've taken action against several companies for selling this sensitive information without getting proper consent.
It's a huge invasion of privacy. This data can reveal a lot about people's lives, where they go, who they meet, what they do.
It's about time the FTC stepped in.
This move underscores the need for stronger privacy protections, especially when it comes to location data.
We need to make sure that people have control over their data and that companies are being held accountable for how they use it.
And in a story that highlights the real-world impact of cyber attacks, The Stoli Group has filed for bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy? What happened?
They say a ransomware attack is to blame. It disrupted their operations and led to significant financial losses.
Wow. It just goes to show you how devastating these attacks can be, even for large, well-established companies.
It's a wake-up call for everyone. No one is immune to ransomware.
We need to take it seriously and invest in the right security measures.
Robust security controls,
Yes.
regular data backups, and a solid incident response plan are essential.
And cyber insurance is becoming more and more important as well. It can help companies recover financially from these attacks.
Remember the concerns about sabotage and espionage targeting critical infrastructure.
The incidents with the damaged undersea cables.
Right. Well, there's been an update on the fiber optic cable break in Finland.
Oh yeah, the one near the Sweden-Finland border. What happened?
It turns out it was an accident, not sabotage.
So it wasn't some kind of underwater espionage operation.
Apparently not. It seems that excavation work was to blame.
Well, that's a relief. But it's still a reminder of how vulnerable our critical infrastructure is.
Whether it's accidental damage or a deliberate attack, the consequences of a major infrastructure failure could be severe. We need to be prepared for both.
Absolutely, a major failure would be bad. Think about essential services being disrupted, economies taking a hit, even potential threats to people's safety. It's a serious issue.
Let's change gears for a second and talk about NetBird. They're making some waves in cybersecurity circles. It's a Berlin-based startup that just scored a pretty impressive investment, $4 million to be exact.
Seed funding, no less. That's a good sign. They're working on an open-source, zero-trust networking platform, and this funding is a good indicator that investors are buying into their approach.
Their goal is to make secure networking solutions accessible to everyone. It shouldn't be just for the big companies with deep pockets, you know?
I agree. Secure networking should be a right, not a privilege. And NetBird's using the zero-trust model. It's a big change from how security used to be done, that whole perimeter-based approach.
Which isn't really cutting it anymore.
Not at all. The world's way too complex for that now. Anyway, their platform uses a zero-configuration VPN.
Powered by WireGuard.
Yep, and known for its speed, simplicity, and security. They've also got a peer-to-peer access control system that's easy to use, so you can control access based on who the user is and what they're doing. It's about strong security without sacrificing usability.
That's a winning combination for sure. It's
Okay.
good to see this kind of innovation.
For sure. But not all the news is good news. Remember Whatnot, that AI chatbot startup?
Yeah, what about them?
They got hit with a data breach. Over 346,000 customer files exposed.
Ouch. That's rough. Any idea what kind of data?
Well, it included some sensitive stuff like passports, medical records, resumes, you name it. Apparently, it was all stored in an unsecured Google Cloud storage bucket. Just a simple configuration error, but the damage is done.
It's a classic case of misconfigured cloud security.
It just goes to show that you need to pay attention to those settings.
And this whole shared responsibility model in the cloud is something companies really need to take seriously.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just trust your cloud provider. You have to take steps to protect your own data, too.
Strong access controls, encryption, all that good stuff.
Right. Now, switching gears, there's this threat actor called Storm 1811 that's been using some pretty creative tactics.
Oh yeah, what are they up to?
They're exploiting these things called RMM tools, remote monitoring, and management tools. They're meant for legitimate IT management, but Storm 1811 is using them to deploy Black Basta ransomware.
So they're taking legitimate tools and using them for evil.
Essentially, yeah. They trick victims into giving them remote access, and then, bam, ransomware.
That's sneaky.
It is. So companies need to really lock down those RMM tools, make sure only authorized people can access them.
And strong authentication is crucial.
Absolutely. And don't forget about monitoring. Got to keep an eye on those logs for any suspicious activity.
Speaking of resources, NIST has updated their cybersecurity framework.
Version 2.0 is out now, and it's a good one. They've added a bunch of new stuff and made it even more useful for organizations of all shapes and sizes.
Especially like the new emphasis on aligning cybersecurity strategies with business goals.
Me too. It's about time cybersecurity is seen as a core part of the business, not just something the IT department deals with.
And the updated framework provides better guidance on supply chain risk management, which is more important than ever.
No doubt. You're only as strong as your weakest link, as they say.
A new report from EY is highlighting some interesting trends in cybersecurity oversight.
What have they found?
It seems like boards of directors are getting more involved in cybersecurity, which is a good thing.
Definitely. Cybersecurity is a business risk and it needs to be addressed at the highest levels.
The report found that more boards are prioritizing cybersecurity expertise, doing tabletop exercises, and actually including CISOs in their discussions.
That's encouraging. It shows that companies are starting to take cybersecurity seriously.
Salesforce, that popular cloud-based platform, have been found to have some vulnerabilities.
Oh no, really? What happened?
Well, during a penetration test, they found some misconfigurations and broken access controls. Sensitive data was exposed.
Not good. Even the big players can have security issues.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that we can't get complacent no matter how secure we think we are. And to wrap up, we've covered a lot of ground today. From emerging threats and vulnerabilities to new technologies and strategies, the cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving. It's a challenging but also fascinating field, and it's never a dull moment. We at Cybersecurity HQ are committed to keeping you informed and providing you with the resources you need to stay ahead of the curve. Remember, we're a community with a job board, the latest news, in-depth reports, and a newsletter read by over 70,000 people every week. Stay vigilant, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into cybersecurity.